Hello everyone, this is Miluki. We are reading economics. It's a comic about economy. So, the physiocrats. French thinking on economics changed. Maybe wealth wasn't a stockpile of silver like Colbert thought. Maybe wealth circulated like blood circulated through the body. Laws, regulation, tariff, subsidies, and so on would get in the way that natural circulation. Better leave it alone, said Francois Cunet, 1694-1774, physician and philosopher, or in French it's called laissez-faire. Few people had really looked at the circulation of the wealth on its own term before. The Frenchmen who did call their new field of the study political economy, they called themselves economists, also physiocrats, from the Greek of rule by nature. Physiocrats believe wealth was governed by natural mechanical laws, just like the rest of the universe. But when the physiocrats tried to explain how wealth circulated, something like this, so the economic table of Dr. Francois Cunet, so see, something like this. So half year 600 produce net, and then half goes here, and then half goes here, and so on. That's pretty wacky actually. Here's the decoded. You'll have to take my word for it. Farmers make the wealth, landlord take it, everyone else is irrelevant. So Cunet table was actually a decent description of the farming economy France was growing out of, and much of France hadn't grown out of it yet. See, but the real story was the rising capitalist economy. So there was also Smith, Shipper, Baker, Entrance, and so on, who would explain capitalism. Let's cross the English Channel and check out a Scottish economy, Adam Smith, 1723-1790. Adam Smith and free market. Smith's revolutionary work, An Inquiry into the Nature and Cause of the Wealth of the Nation, 1776. To Smith, one cause of the wealth was division of labor. He described a workshop where 10 workers made nothing but pins. Together, they make 48,000 pins a day, far more than 10 people could make if each worked alone. So, someone only draws out wire, some others straighten the wire, sharpening point, the other one is only put head on, and so on. The pin workshop had clear organization. One person gave the order. But who gave the order to all people who worked on a bigger task, like making a loaf of bread, something like this? Nobody did. Bakers didn't work because some bread planner told them to, or because they were sane who want people to be well fed. They worked because it was good for them. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, and the baker that we expect our dinner, but from the regards to their own interest. But if the baker cared only about himself, why didn't he do this? Smith answered, it means like bread for 10 pence. The baker might want to go, but if he tries, other bakers, thinking only of themselves as well, will steal their customer. If the bread is 10 pence, while others make the bread for 3 pence, so the customers will go to other side. Even if he the only baker in town, he cannot get too greedy. If he starts making crazy money, other people will drop what they are doing and horn in. So if he is the one making the bakery, so the wig maker can be changed what he did into a bakery. So in Smith's economy, competition kept everyone honest. Every baker, sane and great head alike, was led as if by an invisible hand to sell the bread at a fair price, high enough to pay for the baker's cost and work, low enough that others didn't steal the customer. I want to charge more, but I cannot. But I can't. Speaking of the cost, baker suppliers, worker, landlord, and lenders couldn't overcharge either, or the bakers would go to their competitors, and so on. So the price of a loaf of bread includes the fair price of all the land, labor, and capital that went into it. In other words, the bread sold for its cost to society, more or less something like that. Here's free market in action. Let's say there is a bad wheat harvest, the government could intervene. Buy, import more wheat, he said, to the shipper, and the government can also say to the grain merchant to release the stock and to people to eat less wheat. Or it could do nothing. The price of wheat will rise, and then what happens is that people will tighten their belts and substitute the other food. Merchants will sell their stockpile for big profit, and the shipper will import more wheat to take advantage of the high price. In other words, a free market organizes things far more effectively than a human planner ever could. Imagine if a planner tried to arrange the supplies of modern New York City. There are gasoline, like pulp, black clothes, beer, and everything. By not planning its supplies, New York has almost never had a shortage of anything, except space, of course. If buyers cannot buy from whomever they want, if sellers cannot set their own prices, or if wig makers aren't allowed to become bakers, the system will not work right. So people must be left reasonably free. Bakers, wig maker. So we are back to laissez-faire, but now we understand why. To get, people have to give. They have to sell something others want. If someone tries to charge too much, others will horn until the price drops. So everything sells for roughly cost of the land, labor, capital that it took to make them into item. In other words, it costs to society. If people don't buy a product, it means the product not worth the cost of the resources used to make it. The seller goes out of business, freeing up the land, labor, and capital he was wasting. No great loss. So, in Smith's economy, the market itself figured out what people wanted and how to get it to them most efficiently, even though everyone in the market was just trying to make a living. Smith's idea that the market can provide order without anyone giving orders has been the core of the economic tool ever since. Wealth of Nation. But it sometimes seems that people spend more time reveling Adam Smith than reading him. Smith had other things to say, things that have been largely forgotten. Let's look at some of them. We will see in the next video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.